These are behaviors that can be triggered. The green arrow lit up box is currently triggered, and we see that reflected over here in the green light. And you see that this behavior matrix has the same shape as this one, right? 2 up here, 4, and then 7 over here. You see that reflected here. And now I can trigger a behavior here, and it becomes triggered here. Similarly, I can trigger here, and we'll see it reflected over here, but that now changes because these are exclusive in the vertical direction at this time. I can trigger all the behaviors in a row with that button over on the right there, and then I can similarly, that's called a scene change. And so yeah, basically these are each there's a set of tracks, as you would expect, that represent different kinds of behavior, which you usually only want one of at a time. So if these were all of your arm gestures, for just thinking broadly, you'd only have one of them you were doing at a time, perhaps, in this particular, in one case. And so then at the same time, we have this more traditional MIDI triggering device over here, which also lights up. And in both cases, these the matrix of buttons can be made to light up in response to individual drum sounds as well as to patterns. So what I was showing you a minute ago is triggering patterns from each of which lasts a second or two. It lasts some number of beats or measures of musical time. But you can also trigger individual small unit gestures with either a traditional keyboard, the drum pads, and this lets you switch through what kinds of signals you're sending with these, or with this matrix of 64 plus 16 buttons, and get visual feedback in both cases. I can switch to a mixer over here, and you can see the different levels of brightness on the buttons there, right? And so that's visual feedback that we have control over. And then finally I'll mention that we have continuous controllers on this little Akai guy, which can be used to send a number from a range, and that's definable in software, what that means, where that goes. So you can be doing both of, any of these kinds of things at the same time, triggering macro scale gestures, triggering micro gestures, micro, continuous, although any of these micros can also trigger macros if you worked at it, you can do that. And so, and then to a large extent, that's all reflected over here in your sequence construction software, which in this case is Ableton off the shelf, which is they have a partnership with these Novation guys to try to make a kind of the most seamless live triggering setup that's available at reasonable cost. So that's the basic setup I wanted to share with you guys. Smooches.